Let's get into Salt Lake City. Jihei, how are you feeling about this season so far?
I mean, coming out with a bang, aren't they? I think it's interesting that I guess all good things have to come to an end. And by all good things, I mean like all, fights and feuds have to come to an end. I just wish that it didn't come this quickly. I think it's been 2 years since Lisa Barlow and Meredith Marks and Heather Gay and Whitney Rose were considered bad weather and the best of friends when it comes to Lisa Barlow and Meredith Marks. I'm wondering, I want to ask you guys, how long do you think this is going to last? Because I just feel like Meredith is one of those people that she can just so easily be ticked off about a bathtub, about, you talking shit about anything, having to do with her life. But that's why you're on reality television, is to show us your life. So, and also certain things are said in jest. Maybe you need to have a better sense of humor. I don't know. I don't know how long this truce between Barlow and Meredith is gonna last. And I was wondering what you guys thought.
Yeah, I feel like, 3 of those women are great housewives, and the other is Heather Gay. And I think that the alliance is going to last as long as is beneficial for Whitney. In the case of Heather and Whitney, I don't think she doesn't seem like she's like fully into it. She's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. She doesn't need Heather, I don't think. So I don't imagine that lasting very long unless it seems advantageous to her. I don't know that Heather provides like great support and is a great kind of friend to bolster her side of things. So I don't see that being very long lasting. And Meredith and Whitney Meredith and Lisa are both fantastic housewives, and I could see this lasting a bit longer since they do have more of a personal history, like prior to the show. They were longtime friends apparently before this. So I could see them, maybe getting back to that. But Meredith is just like so hypersensitive, and it makes her a great housewife. But to be like in a friendship with someone who is that way and constantly like as a job with her being put into very stressful social situations, I think that might be challenging for her relationship. So I feel like that one's kind of short-lived as well. And I don't think that Lisa is the type of housewife that really needs that much of a like an ally in these situations. She just like floats through. She operates on her own like plane that is like 1,000 feet above where everyone else is, and just like thinking about maritime stuff all day. And that's enough to make her an icon. I don't know, she's got the it factor.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on Barlow. I think I don't hate her, but I don't love her. I'm like that in between when it comes to Lisa Barlow, but she's gonna have that snowflake as long as she wants to keep it. Nobody's removing, unfortunately, and fortunately, I guess for her, nobody's removing Lisa Barlow and her lost $60,000 ring, and nobody's gonna remove Meredith Marks, I don't think. Just because they do both bring it. One thing that did stand out to me that I did enjoy watching was Monica, the newbie, and getting to know her a little bit more. And I think we're going to, over every single episode, it's probably going to show us a little bit more into her life. But I liked this, speaking of, Orange County and fake Fendi's and all that other stuff. Like, I like this side of this franchise because it doesn't all have to be glam. Right. She came, I don't want to say she fell from grace, but, she kind of fell from grace once she went through this divorce and once she got excommunicated from the church, which I find extremely hypocritical. And this is probably why I don't go to church anymore. That, she gets punished, but the guy doesn't. She felt bad and was like, she said, I'm sorry, I did this, and she gets punished again. The guy doesn't. But I'm glad that she shared that with us. Right. I think I think everybody can kind of relate to that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's her buying her first Louis by herself, or her getting excommunicated from the church. I think everybody can kind of relate to something that has happened to them in that similar fashion or whatever. So I appreciate her doing that and coming out and showing us her insecurities. I think that was like my hugest takeaway from the episode. I
Yeah,
loved her for
totally.
that.
This scene that we got between her and her mom, where she's like crying about like buying a Louis Vuitton bag, was so honest. And I love to see that kind of honesty, especially like out of a first year housewife. It felt very raw. And um uh, the fact that she was this honest about her feelings and her decisions and everything, in front of her kid as well, I really love that. She seemed like she is a great parent. So I loved seeing that. And I also loved getting it like a contrast with the scene later where Lisa loses a $60,000 ring and is
Yeah.
like a little upset about it, but it is mostly like, oh, whatever. I'm going to call and see if like I can get a replacement. Just such a stark
Yeah.
contrast to someone that is,
Yeah.
so like has such like buyer's guilt about maybe making a not so smart financial decision because they wanted to fit in, versus someone that just like doesn't have to think about that whatsoever.
And such good work by the editors to underscore that too, because they keep every time like Lisa says something about, oh, it was $60,000 casually, they always have a cut to Monica, like kind of keeping her mouth shut, like guiltily clutching her Louis, which is which is a great work to highlight that contrast, like you said, Greg. And I couldn't agree more with you guys. I love Monica in this episode. She's becoming a favorite for me, and I really liked. I always like seeing somebody like express their insecurity about like wealth and social status gaps, and to have the fact that she has like a an emblem of that with this like Louis Vuitton bag that she like feels that like kind of represents her insecurity, but also her guilt over feeling like she needs to compensate for that, because she knows she doesn't want to feel like she has to like be to compensate to make these financially unnecessary gestures to in order to play with these women, but she did it, and now she's guilty about that. And then when we have her like at like the airport, like clutching her bag and being like, yeah, I've got being insecure. It's like, yeah, I've got my Xanax on me, Zaddy's in the Louis, and then like doesn't really get a reaction and just kind of says it again like a little bit more like guiltily, like, yeah, Zaddy's in the Louis. Just like her like kind of like awkwardness and insecurity is like very empathetic, I think, and she was my favorite part of this episode.
Yeah, and these are the things that I love about reality television that you don't often see in other media. Like, we've got these big sweeping season long stories that we're getting, but also over the course of this episode, we got to see this complex relationship that Monica has with an inanimate object. And she's got this like guilt and this embarrassment about this, and but she can't like just throw that away and put it aside and be like, oh, that was disgusting, that was a mistake, I don't want to look at it. She still needs that as a shield in this social situation, and like she needs to clutch onto that in order to fit in. And it's so compelling. And then to see that played against the relationship that Lisa Barlow has with something that should be a lot more sentimental and significant and is more expensive, and it being less of a big deal for her, is so compelling. GA, what other highlights did you have from Salt Lake City?
Yeah, I mean, these are little one-offers. They're not like, I don't think like big huge moments, right? But I mean, the Mary Cosby shade across the board is probably a huge highlight for me as well. Her, first of all, her calling the Motel Trixie and asking if they have Dom. I mean, you can't get more classic than that for Mary Cosby. Than the chips going across the way and her not wanting, the dust or the crumbs or whatever. Like, you peasants, like, put that away from me. And then the last but not least, but you got to mention it, is when Lisa Barlow keeps mentioning the $60,000 ring before she says, I'll just call my jeweler and make sure it's insured and get a replacement. Before she says that, I love when she says, that does not look like a $60,000 ring, and just shades her like crazy. I mean, these are the small little joys that like I think people get when you get reality television. You get their little one-singers, one-liners, and Mary Cosby's really great for that. I think she's on the equivalent of level of Vicky for me as far as like zingers and coming in for like monumental like moments, right? So Vicky comes in and whoops it up and shakes things up and makes that episode a little bit brighter and whatever. Mary Cosby comes in for the shade and it's great, and I'll live for it all day long because it's just comical. It just makes me laugh. Also her not knowing, like, just, I think that she's happy with being a friend of, and I think we're just going to continue to see her maybe being a friend of. I think that a lot of people want her to get her snowflake back, and I think she's very okay with not having her snowflake. So, and I'm okay with that too. I think she's great as a friend of. But yeah, all of that definitely stuck out. Sorry,
I agree. I think that Mary is just fine as a friend of. When she did have her snowflake and was like a full blown housewife, we still didn't see her very like participatory. She was often just shooting scenes alone in her house, and you know, that did give us like something, but I think we're getting the appropriate amount of Mary. I'm really enjoying her this season, and I think this is a good amount for Mary.
Yeah, Dylan, do you agree or do you disagree? Do you want more of Mary?
I don't know. I'll have to see some more. I think, you know, so for me, I never watched Salt Lake City before this season, so all these people are new to me. Every time somebody shows up, it's a surprise, or in the case of Whitney's husband, a jump scare. But Mary is definitely really funny and unpredictable. So yeah, I definitely would like to see more.
I'm looking forward to the last thing I will say is that I'm looking forward to like what Angie K is trying to expose between Meredith and her, like affairs or whatever. Maybe she's bringing up the past because all of them bring up the past a lot. And then I'm also looking forward to just Meredith and another epic get out, you can leave kind of moment. I'm really looking forward to that. And then, like you guys said, I wish that they would just expose names, but I get it. You know, they're still on a show. They got to let it linger a little bit. But Meredith basically bringing up Angie K and like all of her dirt to Lisa Barlow. I want to know about that a lot more. That just made me extremely intrigued at what she knows and vice versa, what they know about each other. Because they were friends for like a while, or they all of them, like, I'm assuming Salt Lake's extraordinarily small, just like pockets of LA and pockets of any area, really. So they probably all know the tea about all of them. It circulates. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Totally. Dylan, what were your highlights?
I did actually like you just mentioned, Jihei. I do like the idea that they're all know these things about each other, because Salt Lake City itself is, I think, like actually a pretty small place. Like it's like only a few 100,000 people, I think, in proper Salt Lake City. So that kind of adds a new dynamic to it. And like I said, I'm still discovering the show, so I'm just delighted to learn more about the whole milieu. I'm really delighted to learn more about the Mormon Church and how fucking weird it is. This is very fun to me. And the way they keep like referencing vaguely these things like death oaths and excommunications and you know, the mission, the garments. You know, Heather says something very ominous about it. You no longer have the garments, which I guess is some sort of like sacred underwear you have to wear. It all seems so bizarre and really fun to me. And I think you understand a lot about how these like kind of niche religions work, I think, by watching somebody like Heather, who, despite branding herself now as a bad Mormon, is clearly still extremely invested in the idea of how to be a good Mormon, and is very invested in policing other people's Mormonism. And you see how much this is like part of her life and her upbringing, right? It's just like, it makes me think that for a lot of these like niche religions, like a big part of the hook and the appeal is really just that you get to be good at following rules. They give you rules, you get to follow them. It's fun to follow rules. And it helps like nurture and breed these people like Whitney and Heather, who are such fucking like prissy hall monitor, Tracy Flick kind of Elle Woods. Pick a Reese Witherspoon character. They are
Yeah.
Reese
Yeah.
Witherspoon characters. All little Reese's pieces out there, but very like very invested in the idea of like following the rules and being good at it. And now that they're like leaving the church, but they can't really leave behind that obsession with like telling people how to like follow the rules properly and not. And I did see Heather and Whitney a bit earlier because I watched the last Ultimate Girls Trip, and it was funny, especially now in retrospect, seeing that the way Whitney and Heather bickered about like how not to be a Mormon now that they're not Mormoning anymore. There was the bit where like Whitney was almost like pulling like a reverso card on Heather, being like, oh, but actually you haven't taken your names off the rolls because there are rules to not be a Mormon, and now you're not following the rules to not being a Mormon. And really funny, but yeah, it does seem kind of fucked up too. The thing about Monica's story is clearly fucked up, that she gets excommunicated, which is just such like, I don't know what that means entirely, but I mean, in the Catholic Church, if you're excommunicated, it's like an edict that you're not only you're not part of the church, you're not going to heaven. Like you will not have like an afterlife in heaven. So it seems like so brutal. And then the fact that she's the one who came out with it, and the guy she's cheating with doesn't have anything happen to him. It's like, even like, I'm sure like most religions are just shitty about those kind of things, but if you were in the Catholic Church and you did that, well, first of all, you can like confess, and it would be like and your priest would be like, okay, I'm not gonna tell anybody because that's the whole point of this, and you just get like 5 bonus guilt points, and if you get up to 100 guilt points this week, you get a stuffed pope. It's kind of like it's a little game. But here they're like, okay, you came out with it, well, you're dead to us now. Very fucked up, very weird. But it's very interesting for me to learn about this stuff. Also, I was kind of surprised to hear them like talk a little bit more about what the mission is, because when they first said like he's going on the mission, it sounded like so like monumentous. I thought he was going to go on like I don't know, like go to like the Andaman Islands and try to like convert tribesmen while they shoot arrows at him or something. And then I just realized when they're talking about it that it's just like he's going to go to South Carolina and be one of those annoying dorks with a tie who knocks on people's doors and annoys them. But
so they don't choose their where they go though. So like they said, like he could be going to Milan, or he could be going to like, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Like he doesn't know. Like they choose it for you. And then I was raised around a bunch of Mormons. So like so they don't choose it. They have to do it. It's a 2-year commitment, like a 2-year straight up commitment. So he's gone for 2 years. If you're an athlete, you still have to do it. So a lot of people that were obviously go to University of Utah, go to BYU, etc. Like they all do their mission. A lot of athletes have to take time off and go do the 2 years, and then they can come back and play. So all of them, like they have to do it. And Heather's right. He's going to be a totally different person when he comes back. Like I don't know if Lisa Barlow's ready for that, because I believe she converted for John. So she wasn't raised in that church situation. I believe so. She wasn't raised in that church situation, whereas her child was raised, Jake was raised in that, instilled in that was instilled in him. So it's a 2 totally different dynamic. And yeah, because she's from New York. Like, how many Mormons do you know in New York?
Yeah.
So I think she's in for a rude awakening. So I understand why Heather was like so gung-ho about being like, she needs to know all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. But if that's not your everyday thing that you grew up with, it's going to be weird. It's going to be different for her when he comes back, for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. I do, however, don't think that Heather should insert herself. I'm like, it's her kid. Like, let her be. Like, leave her alone.
Oh yeah. It's interesting that she would even like make this thing. There's no way that this can go like well for her socially. So I don't know. Heather, I think, is on borrowed time as a housewife. I don't feel like she's bringing a lot, but I'll be interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think the only reason why she would ever come back, by the way, though, is that feud between her and Angie K that she's making up, which is kind of ridiculous. She's repeating a rumor. You should never ever. Like, you should never ever sit there and be like, oh, they repeated a rumor. It's like they're repeating a rumor. They might not believe the rumor. They're just telling you the rumor. Like, don't shoot the messenger. So I don't know. Like, this whole
I really love how how Heather mentioned that they had known each other from middle school, and the beef goes back to then, and kind of like framed it as this like weird like West Side Story type relationship between the Mormons and the Greeks. Like, just such a bizarre middle school dynamic. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
But what was going on with Angie's dog? Did you guys pick up on this?
That was odd. Were they training for something? Was there like a reason for the jump? I don't know. I don't get that part.
Yeah, so it had like those equestrian jumping like things set up in the house, and her like giant poodle was jumping over it and had like bright pink dyed ears. It was very strange, but I don't know. Maybe it's just not a world that I'm exposed to.
You got to keep busy somehow.
And then what was your thought, you guys? What quick question, what was your thought on the fact that their 11-year-old still sleeps with them? No judgment whatsoever. Like, you do you for your kid, but like, I just thought it was odd.
Yeah, I mean, 11 seems like a bit old for that, but I don't know.
Everybody raises their family different.
I didn't even pick up on that while watching the episode, actually.
It's just a weird
seems
thought.
a little old for me. I feel like at a certain point, you've got to start pushing them to be more independent. 11 seems pretty old, but what do I know? I don't have kids.
Yeah.
I think that about does it for Salt Lake City for me. Did you guys have any other thoughts?
That about covers it for me, I think.
Yeah, that covers it for me as well. I don't think.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Jihye. It's been a blast. Want to let everyone know where they can find you?
No, absolutely. And thank you again so much for having me. I will always come on if you guys ever want me back. Anywhere you get your social media, you guys, I am on Threads, and I am on, that's what the kids are calling it. And then I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, all the same handle, _real_bitch_of_Bravo. If you want to follow me on my regular one, you can, but I'm so boring. Other than Bravo, I don't think I'm that interesting. My personal social media, which is public, is JIHAE_JHO_Wiley WILEY. You can follow me there and listen everywhere you get your podcasts for the Real Bitch of Bravo podcast with Jihye Wiley.
Awesome. And Dylan, how about yourself?
If anybody who loves the Real Housewives also loves cryptids and American history, I'm gonna mention once again my limited history show that I've released recently. It's all available now, just 4 episodes, called "The Devil You Don't," about the cryptid, the Jersey Devil, and various bizarre stories from American history that have intersected with this legend.
Awesome. I'm Craig Midwinter. I don't really have anything other than this to plug unless you like programming. You can follow me on GitHub, I guess. Just see what projects I'm into. I don't know. That's been Bravo Outsider for this week. You can find us online, bravooutsider.com. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're on TikTok, sort of. Look us up on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Until next week, keep on wifing.